Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope your day and your week are off to a fantastic start. Got a new day, which of course means a new MLB Player Prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day and a new week comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 5 MLB player props to go ahead and share with you guys in today's MLB slate. We've been trending in the right direction. Last week, solid week. We had one really bad day, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was Thursday. But Freaky Friday, now unfortunately, 2 of the 5 legs got voided, but 3 legs we did cash, so we did hit a little bit of money on Friday. But overall last week, a solid week. Let's build on that. Let's keep rebuilding our record here and getting back up to even to plus money profit. I think we can do it. We're on a really good run the last really 2 weeks. But let's keep the good times rolling here, guys. Like I said, 5 player props coming your way right now. We've got a lot to do and not a moment to spare, so let's jump right into the picks. Our first player prop in today's slate comes from the Mets-Nationals game, 4:05 p.m. first pitch. We got Jesse Winker of the New York Mets over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, plus 110 odds right now over on DraftKings. It is available on multiple sports books for varying odds. Now, look, it's a plus money play. We're not going to throw a full unit. Probably going to do it maybe a half a unit on this play. Plus money play. The data is not very good. 3 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 1.2 hits, runs, RBIs per game over his last 10. So far this year, just a 26% hit rate on the over, just 5 of 19 games. He's cashed the over, averaging 1.11 hits, runs, RBIs per game this season. And even from a head-to-head perspective, just 1 of his last 3 matchups against Washington, he's cashed the over, which was actually 2 days ago on April 26th. He had 1 hit and 1 run. It was a 2-0 win for the Mets. Now, all that data points to this being a bad player prop, but if you look at the key matchup stats down below, it actually looks to be somewhat decent. Now, Jesse Winker, to be fair, just batting 200 this year with a 79.3 WRC+. Whether you look at right-handed pitchers or overall this year, it's just not good. 200 batting average, obviously, clearly, is not very good. But that being said, the matchup here versus Trevor Williams is interesting because they've had 10 plate appearances since 2018. He's got 6 hits off of him, a 750 batting average, and an 800 OBP against Trevor Williams, which is pretty impressive, honestly. And look, 10 plate appearances isn't some massive sample size, but that's 10 plate appearances against this pitcher, and he's hit off of him 6 of those 10 times. Pretty good numbers there, not a lot of RBIs, but some pretty solid performances. And looking down below at Trevor Williams versus left-handed batters, he struggled all year long, which makes it kind of convincing, to me at least, to throw at least half a unit on this play. I mean, his numbers are not good to begin with, but you look at versus left-handed batters, it gets even worse. 7.50 ERA, 4.33 batting average allowed, 2.2 home runs per 9, 469 WOBA against left-handed batters. Across the board, really bad spot for Trevor Williams. Could be a really solid spot here for Jesse Winker. Again, the data's not great, but from a head-to-head perspective versus Trevor Williams, the matchup, I'm willing to put half a unit on that. So it's our first player prop in today's slate. All right, guys, moving on to the second player prop in today's slate. We're looking at the Twins-Guardians game, 6:10 p.m. first pitch. We're going Steven Kwan of the Cleveland Guardians over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, minus 130 over on DraftKings. Again, available on multiple sports books for varying odds. Data looks pretty solid. Very different from the last player prop. 7 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 2.5 hits, runs, RBIs per game over his last 10 games. You look at the overall data from the entire season, a 59% hit rate on this over. 16 out of 27 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 2.59 hits, runs, RBIs per game this year. Steven Kwan having a very solid year thus far with the Cleveland Guardians. And from a head-to-head perspective, 4 of his last 6 matchups with the Minnesota Twins, he's cashed the over. That is a 67% hit rate, averaging 1.83 hits, runs, RBIs per game against Minnesota across those last 6 matchups. Now, granted, these are all from last year. However, pretty good numbers when matched up with Minnesota. Now, and what is sort of an inverse of the previous situation where you saw Trevor Williams versus Jesse Winker. Winker had a very good head-to-head record. The opposite here, Steven Kwan versus Bailey Ober has not had a lot of success. 12 plate appearances since 2018. 0 hits, 0 home runs, 0 RBIs, 0 on base. Really, really bad. So why take this player prop? Well, the data I just previously showed you is part of the reason. The other part here is look at the splits down below. Honestly, it seems like on paper a really good matchup here. Steven Kwan is batting .371 off of right-handed pitchers this year with a 201.9 WRC+, And Bailey Ober against left-handed batters, 7.27 ERA, 350 batting average allowed, 2.1 home runs per 9, and 4.11 WOBA. And look, I don't want to go ahead and tell you guys the last player prop. We'll take this because Jesse Winker is a good head-to-head, and then the next player prop tell you head-to-head doesn't matter. It certainly does, and it's the biggest reason why if you don't take this player prop, that's the reason to fade it, is that he has had no success versus Bailey Ober. However, the recent data, the overall data, and the splits down below there point in the direction of this being a solid player prop. Now, again, I could be completely wrong here. Bailey Ober could continue to own Steven Kwan and just eliminate him from the picture. But I'm willing to take a chance here because, again, on paper, looking at the numbers, it looks like a decent matchup. And look at Steven Kwan. Bailey Ober obviously heavily utilized the fastball, 38.2% of his pitches. Look at Steven Kwan versus the fastball, 485 WOBA. Now, versus the slider, his second most used pitch, 188, not very good. But then his third most used pitch, the changeup, 358 WOBA, which is not bad at all. It's red because it's down from his overall numbers of 397, but that's still not bad. So the two of his top three pitches, Steven Kwan's hitting pretty well off of. So I think it's a pretty good spot here. Again, I know that individual matchup there between Kwan and Ober has not been great, but I do like what I see on paper, so that's our second player prop in today's slate. All right, guys, our third player prop in today's slate is coming from the Athletics-Rangers game, 8:05 p.m. first pitch. I actually have two player props coming from this game. Our first in this game and our third overall. We've got Josh Jung of the Texas Rangers under 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, minus 105 odds right now over on DraftKings. For minus 105 odds, the data is pretty solid here. 8 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the under, averaging 1 hit, run, RBI per game over his last 10 games. You look at the overall data from the entire season, a 53% hit rate on this under. 10 out of 19 games, he's cashed the under, averaging 1.74 hits, runs, RBIs per game this year. Now, Josh Jung got off to a really hot start. Look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He cashed the over in 7 of his first 8 games, had a really hot start to the year. However, since then, he's significantly cooled off. He's cashed the over in just 2 of his last 11 games. So the under is cashed in 9 of his last 11, and honestly, if you want to break it down even further, 10 of his last 12, he's cashed the under. So besides, you take that first kind of, what was that, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8 games, whatever it was, we said, that hot streak out of it, he's been really cold for the last couple weeks. And from a head-to-head perspective, 3 of his last 5 matchups with the Athletics, he's cashed the under. That's a 60% hit rate, averaging 2.2 hits, runs, RBIs per game over their last 5 matchups, and 3 of those have come this year. He's played them 3 times this year. He's cashed the under in 2 of those 3 matchups. Now, again, we're choosing to look at the key matchup stats and kind of, turn a blind eye to it. Josh Jung versus JP Sears, he's actually had some success. 13 plate appearances since 2018. He's got 4 hits off him, so he's batting .308 with a .308 OBP. He's had some success against JP Sears, though. We got to be honest with that. But again, like the last player prop, the data on paper looks to be pretty solid. 222 batting average versus left-handed pitchers. It's a significant decrease from Josh Jung's overall numbers. His WRC plus, significant drop. JP Sears versus right-handed batters. His numbers consistently drop across the board. His batting average, ERA, home runs per 9, WOBA, they all decrease when facing off with right-handed batters like Josh Jung. So when you put Josh Jung's struggles versus left-handed pitchers and JP Sears' success versus right-handed batters, it looks to be, again, matching with the recent run he's on. Again, 9 of his last 11 games, he's cashed the under. It seems to be a pretty good spot here for Josh Jung on the under. Again, I know he's had some success versus JP Sears individually, but I do like the spot here for Josh Jung. Josh Jung overall this year, 330 WOBA versus the fastball. His most utilized pitch, 321. Still, that's not a bad number, but it's obviously a decrease from his overall line. And his second most utilized pitch, the slider, let's go ahead and if it clicks on here, 282. Again, not awful, but it's still a decrease from his overall number. So he definitely struggles a little bit more versus those 2 types of pitches, which JP Sears obviously leans on heavily than he does normal. So I think it's a pretty good spot here. Again, minus 105 odds, pretty good value too. That's our third player prop in today's slate. And again, sticking with this game, our fourth player prop in today's slate, we're going Brent Rooker of the Athletics over 1.5 bases. We're getting that for minus 120 odds over on FanDuel. A lot of options for betting this one. A lot of sports books for a lot of odds. By the way, guys, if you are still watching the video at this point, we're about to hit the 10-minute mark in today's video. So please go ahead and comment 10 down below if you're still watching. As always, guys, we appreciate those who watch through each and every single video here on the channel. We put a lot of hard work into each and every video, so it means a lot when you guys actually watch through and listen. Again, no hate. You guys want to just come for the picks? Absolutely. But those who actually do listen, who watch through, we appreciate you guys. So comment 10 down below if you're still watching the video at this point. So Brent Rooker over 1.5 total bases. Again, minus 120 on FanDuel is what we're taking it for. Data's solid. 7 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 2.5 total bases per game. So far this year, a 57% hit rate on the over. 16 out of 28 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 2 total bases per game this season. And then also looking at this from a head-to-head perspective, 8 of his last 13 matchups with the Texas Rangers, so a pretty decent sample size here, little division rivalry, of course. A 62% hit rate across the last 13 matchups with Texas, averaging 2.77 total bases per game across the last 13 matchups with the Rangers. Now, 10 of those 13 games are coming from last year, where he had a really good success rate against the Rangers. So far this year, they played 3 times. He's cashed the over in 1 of these 3 games, which to me just means he's due. Their first matchup on April 22nd, he did have 5 total bases, but the 2 subsequent games, 0 bases in both those games. But again, the head-to-head data is still, even with taking these last 2 misses into account, pretty solid overall. Now, very small sample size here for Rooker versus Patrick Corbin. Not a lot to go off of there. 3 plate appearances since 2018. He's got 1 hit, 1 total base. Again, not a ton to go off of there for Brent Rooker. But looking down below at the splits, looks to be a pretty decent matchup here. Rooker versus left-handed pitchers. Small sample size, just 28 plate appearances. But in those 29 plate appearances versus left-handed pitchers, a 308 batting average, which is a significant increase compared to his overall 248 batting average. His BABIP and his ISO both also significantly increased, but the one line that really is intriguing here is the extra base hit percentage. It goes from 46.4%, which is decent, to 75%. Now, granted, again, smaller sample size, but 75% extra base hit percentage against left-handed pitchers. He has been raking off of left-handed pitchers this year. 18 total bases and 29 plate appearances is pretty impressive. Now, Patrick Corbin, his overall numbers are not that great. They do actually get better for him, which is worse for us when facing off with right-handed batters. However, even at these decreased lines, it's still pretty solid. 3.97 ERA, which actually is an increase. 283 batting average allowed, 435 slugging. Again, those are decreases, but they're still pretty solid numbers. The one thing that's a little concerning here is the extra base hit percentage is just 23.1%, which of course, you either need him to get multiple hits or hit a double or a home run or whatever. That extra base hit percentage being lower versus right-handed batters, a little bit concerning, I'll be honest. But overall, I think a lot of the data looks to be solid. Now, overall, you do see that Rooker's batting .335 WOBA this year versus sliders, which is the most utilized pitch from Patrick Corbin. He's batting .343 WOBA, which is definitely better. The strikeout rate's also higher, but his OBA goes better. And his second most utilized pitch, the cutter, gets even better for Rooker, .490 WOBA, so a 10% strikeout rate. So really good numbers across the board here. Seems to be a pretty solid matchup here for Brent Rooker. And guys, our 5th and final player prop in today's slate comes from the Marlins-Dodgers game, 10:10 p.m. first pitch. We got Freddie Freeman of the Dodgers, over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, minus 135 odds right now over on BetMGM. And again, really solid data here. 7 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 2.7 hits, runs, RBIs per game over his last 10 games. So far this year, a 59% hit rate on the over. 10 out of 17 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 2.35 hits, runs, RBIs per game this season. And from a head-to-head perspective, also pretty solid data. 5 of his last 6 matchups with the Miami Marlins, all dating back to last season, of course. He's cashed the over, averaging 3 hits, runs, RBIs per game across those last 6 matchups with Miami. So pretty good head-to-head data. Pretty solid overall data here for Freddie Freeman. You also have the insights provided by Outlier. Freddie Freeman has exceeded 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 6 straight games at home, averaging 3.3 hits, runs, RBIs per game over his last 6 home games. And then looking at the matchup down below, I mean, it's really solid across the board. Freddie Freeman, except for the I should say, again, another one of these matchups here where Freeman has not had a ton of success hitting off of Edward Cabrera. 10 plate appearances since 2018, 0 hits, 0 home runs, 0 RBIs. He does have a 300 OBP. So again, take that into consideration when betting this player prop, that head-to-head matchup there has not been solid on the side of Freeman this far. However, again, look at these splits down below. Freddie Freeman versus right-handed pitchers batting .341, a significant increase from his overall batting average of .283. WRC plus, massive jump. And then Cabrera versus left-handed batters, all of his numbers steadily increase. ERA, batting average, home runs per 9, WOBA, solid green, solid increases across the board. Again, this right here is a little concerning, the fact that he has 0 hits and 10 plate appearances against Cabrera. However, Freeman's numbers are so great this year, and Cabrera's numbers are not so great this year when taking into consideration left-handed batters. I think it's a really good matchup here for Freddie Freeman. Again, he's one of the best players in baseball. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I'll be back tomorrow with another MLB Player Prop video, but until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Monday. Let's have a great week, and of course, let's go ahead and make some money.